So, welcome back to the Extra Point Podcast, podcast from Cross Point Baptist Church. Today, I am with Jared, who many of you may know already, and we're going to take some time to talk about missions and talk about what he does. And so he's in town right now, so we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of have you on and talk, but thanks for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here. It's an honor to be back with Cross Point, be in the area. I'm a good Northwesterner at heart, so miss this cloudy, rainy weather,
It was nice yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I was walking to dinner with Jenna, and we were at McMiniman's on the waterfront, and it was sunny and nice. It was still cold, but yeah. We're gonna jump into our first 5 questions and just kind of answer these, and then we'll talk about you and your ministry and your family and all those things. So the first question being is, what is your favorite music to listen to?
Man, I like all sorts of music. Recently, our family's really gotten into Brian Sauvé. He writes a lot of songs based on the Psalms, and so our 3-year-old Kessia, she decided that anytime I'm home, she wants to ask about Psalm 100. And she always does it kind of sneakily. She says, "Hey, Zebedee, he wants you to play his favorite song." And by that, I know, it's Make a Joyful Noise. And I've got to put it on for my sweet girl. So.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot as well. I've been listening to so many podcasts that my music consumption goes down, but
It's me too. Yeah.
I listen to country music because I love country music. I listen to, alternate kind of worship music, Josh Garrels, the band called Gable Price and Friends I really like. They make like alternative Christian and pop punk stuff. It's good. And then I listen to like buoy scores when I'm working because I don't want to listen to like words and all that stuff. What is your favorite country you've ever visited?
Yeah, this one's tough.
Yeah. How many have you been to?
I'd have to count. I think it's at 16, 17. I hit 7 or 8 African countries since we've been back in the U.S. The last couple years.
Yeah.
But probably for vacation, Slovenia was our favorite. It's just like a fairy tale.
Oh, wow.
You've got the mountains, these emerald green lakes, it's beautiful, and these beautiful historical churches. And Switzerland's right up there with it. Just
That's cool.
Pretty epic.
Yeah. I would imagine. I have not been to many, unfortunately. I'm actually going to be going to the Dominican Republic for a day, I guess, in May. I'll be on a cruise with family, but my favorites would be, like, I've been to the Bahamas for a day when I was 10 on a cruise, but I've been to Taiwan. It's the only country I've been to really that's like, I was there for 10 days. It was for missions, but it was also like, I'm sure you understand, it was definitely less mission, more trip. Did some cool things, but also we did a lot of sightseeing, and it was awesome. Have you ever been to Taiwan?
I've not. I've flown through there. Yeah, that part of Asia I haven't experienced as much.
It was really cool. Like there's a night market that's like one of the biggest. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The third question is, if you had to eat one type of sandwich for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Probably a Cuban. I like a good Cuban sandwich, right. Cubano. Yeah.
Is there a place?
Well, I was just down in Tampa, and it was kind of hard to beat eating down there.
Yeah.
Just went to this little hole in the wall that I saw on the side of the road.
Right.
And it's pretty incredible.
Those are the best places.
They always are. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'd go. Yeah, I can eat it here. I had it like 2 nights ago. It's from Quiznos, but it's a chicken carbonara. So it's like Alfredo and chicken and bacon, and I don't remember what kind of cheese, but I've been eating the same, like there's the Quiznos that's like over here kind of in our area. I haven't gone there so long that like we're friends, the owner and I, and so it's pretty.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
What's a core memory Core memories being something that just obviously sticks out to you, that it's like implanted in your brain because of how good it was. Core memory for you from your childhood.
Yeah, so I had a couple that popped to mind. One, before we joined Five Corners and later Cross Point, my dad started a church in Eastern Vancouver called Hope, and every Sunday as we packed up, my best friend Miles and I, we would box with the puppets that we had, and so we would run around boxing each other, just being boys, and it was a special time. He was the only one my age or the church plant, and so that was pretty cool. Probably the most influential memory was taking a trip with Cross Point to Thailand. I turned 14 in Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
And on that day felt called overseas, realized that the Lord had given me a passion to reach people with the gospel, and that even I could use my giftings and passions. We did like a sports camp, English camp, which as a 14-year-old boy, you're like, I could do this forever. I never want to work. I just want to play games and share the gospel.
Yeah. Those are cool. Yeah. Mine are, I mean, I have one where I was thinking about it because, the Super Bowl just happened, obviously. And my brother and I, when we were younger, we used to go out into our driveway. We ended like a longest driveway, and next to the driveway would be just like literally grass. And so we'd run routes and try to make these like sideline catches.
Yeah.
That was good. But then, like you, there's ones that I have that are definitely like influential. And there's one about when I like was the first time I preached, but it like went so terribly, so I'm not quite sure if it's like a core memory. But one time, the second time I ever attended the previous church that I went to, when I went in 6th grade, at Some of You Church is what it's called. I attended the first week with my parents and stuff because I told my parents that I want to go to church, because the previous church I felt like no one talked to me. And so went, it was fine, but the second week, my small group leader, I was a 6th grader, still know him to this day. I mean, he's awesome. But there was only 2 of us there, which was rare. There's usually supposed to be more of my grade and my kind of group. And there was only 2 of us there at church. And so he's like, hey, go ask your parents if I can take you to Taco Bell. And I asked my mom. She's like, yeah, of course, And we went to Taco Bell. And from that point on, I was like, this is my favorite church, and this is the church for me. And I mean, that was very surface level when I was a 6th grader, but it turned into one of the best decisions I've made, is going to that church.
That's awesome. So, yeah.
And then lastly, who's your favorite Disney princess?
I honestly don't watch a lot of Disney.
Yeah.
I love college basketball though, so I was like, oh, Cinderella. I love a good Cinderella team, but really that story is a cool one. Yeah. Just of the underdog and almost a redemptive quality.
Yeah.
Being saved out of the brokenness that's going on. But
it's a classic too.
And I mean, you can't beat the classics.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, mine's probably Mulan. That was mine. When I was like a kid, I don't remember this, but my mom said that I would repeatedly ask to watch Mulan all the time. So I'll stick with Mulan. But yeah, March Madness, it's upon us. I'm definitely very excited for that. But yeah, those are just our first 5 questions just to chat about. But kind of moving into you, and a lot of people at Crosspoint, they know you, they remember you. Can you share what you've been up to since you left seminary, your family, your ministry, life in kind of general?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to believe it. I was reflecting on it today. It's been about 9 years since we left in March of 2020 or 2015. It's hard to believe we're here in 2024.
Yeah, crazy.
Only a few things have happened. We've lived in 5 or 6 countries. We've had 3 kids. Right. I've been, working globally in Central Asia. We were there for about 6 years as a married couple in a few different countries. We had a wonderful time surfing overseas, doing that. It wasn't, You look back on 9, 10 years. We're gonna be married 10 years in March. My wife Jennifer and I, which is crazy,
Yeah,
and
that's
it makes me feel really old. But just reflecting, you never know what God's going to do. So we've been able to be a part. We went to country in the former Soviet Union that there were only 10 like-minded workers like us because of security. So we were able to spend 2 school years there. Spend some time in Europe working with Turks, helping a church there reach out to Turks, and didn't realize just how many Muslims there are in Europe and the need there. And then we ended up in Central Asia again for about 8 months. And we've had ups and downs. My wife had a couple severe miscarriages that risked her life. And through that, through a lot of prayer, we ended up in the U.S. in August 2021. And since then, it's crazy when you end up somewhere you never expected it. For us, it was rebuilding our lives. What's this look like? How do I find a job? Right. What's it like to buy a home? You're 31 years old. You never bought a home before. Right. You're like, I don't know that I'm supposed to change out my filter to my HVAC every 3 months, and it's like we had to grow up pretty quickly. But we've been serving the persecuted church. I have for the last 2 years, and really love that. Really excited about what God's doing globally. And we have 3 kids. Addison, she's 7. Kessie is 3.5. And then little Zebedee just turned 1 last month. So it's been cool to see them and kind of see them growing, learning, interacting with the world. Our son Zebedee's had a lot of medical stuff, but the Lord's been so faithful over the last year just for him to be alive, and he's crawling and destroying things like every good boy should. And
exactly,
the girls don't know what they got themselves into having a brother, but it's been good for all of us. So
that's really cool. That's super sweet. Yeah, that in 10 years, it sounds like a lot.
We try and live a lifetime in a few years, so 10 years, it adds up pretty quickly. But yeah, the Lord's been so good.
That's true. Most people think that moving 5 states is a lot in 10 years. 5 countries. That's it's really cool to see. I mean, I just got here, so I just met you, however many months ago, last time you were here. But hearing how God's been faithful, it's super cool. So tell us about just kind of your ministry you work for now. What's the name of it? What kind of work do? You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but
yeah, absolutely. So I work for an organization called International Christian Response. There's a couple about 50, 60 years ago named Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand. Their story is well worth looking into if you haven't heard. Richard wrote a book called Tortured for Christ that shared his experience of 14 years in prison. Sabina ended up in a forced labor camp. Both of these faithful Christians are just incredible examples of godly perseverance. But they came back. They started organizations around the world. One a lot of people know of is Voice of the Martyrs here in the U.S., but there were other organizations, including ICR, that were founded. So ours was founded in Switzerland about 54 years ago. And then they came to the U.S. about 14 years ago. So we support persecuted believers. We really do 3 things. We support the persecuted church. We equip local churches to grow and to persevere, to understand why they're being persecuted, so that they will advance the gospel. And so we really see those 3 kind of being a cycle. Often you have a church that needs to be equipped. You equip them, they start preaching the gospel, and as a result, in a lot of areas in the world, they face persecution, maybe from their parents, maybe from the government, maybe from Islamic terrorists. And so we come alongside them through working with the local church, really supporting them in what they need. And so we're in 40 plus countries. Last year, we had some incredible partnerships in those countries and in places that really hard to get to.
Right.
Like the Arab Peninsula, we had partners there. Afghanistan, some other places where Syria impacted by ISIS and stuff going on there. So we're just really trying to come alongside the global church and help them persevere and be faithful, but also wanting to share their stories with believers here in the U.S., really want to connect believers so they're aware that they have a family, they have brothers and sisters who are struggling and who need support and prayer financially. And so we get the honor of kind of being in between and saying, hey, here's what's going on. This is how God's at work. This is what you can be praying for. And encourages the church here as well. Be faithful, preach the gospel. God is with you. You may face opposition. You know, you may be in a culture that's moving away from God, or you might not see fruit, but the Lord is working behind the scenes. And here's a story, you know, that can encourage you.
Yeah, you see an extreme example of someone just persevering through.
That's right.
And it's like, I can deal with my coworker that, you know, is
absolutely
kind of pressing me. But that's really cool. That's awesome. That's obviously important to be with those people that are across the world that are persecuted and following Jesus, but also, you know, our churches, we need help praying for them and, you know, being equipped to know what to do. Speaking of that, is how can the people of Crosspoint or whoever's listening, I guess, pray for you, pray for ICR, pray for the persecuted Christians? What's that look like?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Prayer is so important in all that we do. One of the things we're trying to do as a staff is just really engage churches better and come alongside churches. So we're praying for ambassadors. We really believe that God is going to work through his church to really provide for the global church and persecuted believers. So we're looking for people who have a heart and a desire to really support these persecuted believers and share that with their coworkers and their friends and their families and their small groups and whoever it may be. And then we're trying to come alongside them and support them by giving them information and stories and, you know, maybe specific needs. So we're really praying that God would lay it on the hearts of individuals and families to be ambassadors. Right. So that's a big prayer request. Globally, there's always major prayer requests. Places like Nigeria, where on average 5,000 Christians are killed a year for their faith. So just knowing how best to serve them and bless them and come alongside them, that's always a prayer request. But yeah, for me in my role, I work a lot with foundations and with larger organizations. And so I just have a lot of paperwork and details and, you know, a lot of reports and proposals. So always prayers are welcome in those tasks. And that every, you know, I'd much rather be on the field than do this, but it's cool how God puts us where we need to be. And yeah.
When you say ambassadors, is that like I could be an ambassador, or, you know, someone listening could be, or
that's right,
could be?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're talking about individuals and churches that just want to learn, and kind of the idea with an ambassador is you're willing to pass that information on.
Gotcha.
And so we want to get you as much as we can. We have prayer calendars, so maybe as I'm an ambassador that's getting a group of people together to pray for the persecuted church. And I don't just want to pray, but I want to really promote those around me to join in praying, or hey, I love this story, but I really want to get a group together and just kind of share. It could be small groups, but we're really just working kind of organically, grassroots level to... We realize we'll have much greater reach, you know, if we can pass a baton on and people are like, no, this is something I should care about. I didn't know. Now I'm sure there's others who don't know. I should tell them. And I want to make sure that they know and encourage them to tell somebody else and pass that on.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I'm sure you have a lot of stories you've seen of how you see God working through your ministry and just, I mean, throughout the world. Is there any that you have on the top of your mind that you want to share that could be important or beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been to Nigeria twice. Nigeria is probably home to some of the most severe persecution in the world. There's a brother, his name's Gideon. Gideon has 3 daughters. He lives in a part of Nigeria that's in the central part called the Middle Belt. And Gideon, he's a pastor. He's actually a collegiate minister working with over 100 college students in a city called Coffin John. And through being there and seeing all of these villages that are getting attacked by these terrorists, they come in and they kill Christians, they destroy churches, they burn down crops. They don't care if it's boys, or girls, kids, or women, or men, or the elderly. They come in and they attack and they kill and wreak all sorts of havoc, on these believers. And so Gideon was a faithful witness. He started sharing, these attacks are happening. This is wrong. The government needs to do something. Christians are being slaughtered. And as a result, these terrorists quickly heard about Gideon. So they wrote 2 death threats. They put one in his carport that said, "We're coming for you. We're coming for your family." And then the second time, they jumped into his courtyard, past the fence, and walked up to his front door and pinned it right on the front door. And Gideon, of course, was scared, worried about his wife and kids. And he was thinking about leaving. But then when brothers and sisters in the U.S. came alongside him, supported him financially, and prayed for him, and really just said, "You know what? We have your back. No matter what happens, we're going to take care of your family." He decided to stay. And I remember sitting there with him, listening to him say, if it wasn't for the support that I had from the global body of Christ, I would have left. And now he's serving not only those college students, but there's displaced people whose villages have been destroyed because of these attacks. And I was able to stand up with him in front of probably 400 or 500 of them. Wow. And just say, "We love you, we see you, we're going to faithfully pray for you." And while I did that, one of the people said, "You know what? Here in Africa, if we say we'll be somewhere, we won't be there for a few more hours. But when the white man comes around and he says, 'I'll be there,' he shows up right on time. So we can trust when he says, 'I'll pray for you,' that he's going to be faithful to actually pray." And I heard that and I was like, man, I actually have to pray for these people and be faithful and be reminded of them. But it's so cool to see God raising godly men and women who are willing to put themselves in harm's way for the sake of the local church and their brothers and sisters.
That's incredible. So the people after him stopped trying to come out? Like,
not yet. This is a story in progress. Yeah. So he's still there. He was number 3 on a hit list. The last time I heard, but he's faithfully ministering, and these brothers and sisters, they know that to live is Christ and to die is gain, and they're living that out day by day. And man, they're people. Their feet are made of clay, just like all of us. But
right, that's very
it's incredible.
Inspiring is probably the right word, or like convicting is probably another word. Yeah, he's like actually facing,
that's right.
And yet I struggle sometimes to tell a friend who doesn't know Jesus about Jesus. That's awesome. There's a event that is happening at Crosspoint in April. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for this.
That's nice. Sweet event. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be really cool. So our staff are coming down. We're inviting 2 key speakers. One is a guy named John. John was my partner in Nigeria when I was traveling to the field, and it's a dear friend. He's been working in Nigeria for about 15 years. Serving the persecuted for the last 8, he and his wife are doing incredible work, helping 100 widows. Over 400 kids are getting education through their ministry. They're supporting pastors like Gideon, so they'll be able to share, you know, what the brothers and sisters in Nigeria are facing. As I said, 5,000 a year that are known are killed for their faith, and that number is probably much higher. So John's an awesome guy, cool background, just an incredible brother, super faithful, business-minded, trying to help these widows and their families have not just spiritual support, but financial, vocational training, and plugging them into the local church. So he and his wife will be sharing about what they're doing. We're also having a brother named Nima. Nima's from Iran. He came out to the U.S. a number of years ago, and he's been really focused on training, equipping the local church. And so he's been doing a lot of translation work, media work, so that our brothers and sisters in Iran have really good material that they can learn and grow. We just heard he had a network of pastors that a lot of them have been imprisoned recently, so he's seen persecution as well. But the church in Iran, or Iran, however you say it, has been growing for a while now, really rapidly in the face of persecution.
Yeah.
But it's really surface level. So it'll be really cool to hear from him how he sees the growth through evangelism rapidly growing, and how there's that need then to equip the church with solid teaching, with biblically faithful training, with pastors and elders who are men who love the Lord and are faithful and willing to face persecution as well. So they'll be there. Some of our staff will be here. Gonna try and get some Goldie's barbecue to be catered in, hopefully. So we'll see. I need to talk to Charles about that. But hopefully we'll have some time. Y'all can come out. I've been in Oklahoma too much. You guys can come out.
I think y'all too. So
you guys can come on out and meet us, hear what we're about, hear how you can connect. It's going to be a cool event. I think it'll be probably like 9 to 1, and then we'll have some time afterwards if you want to hang out and get to know the people who we are bringing. So yeah, don't miss it.
that'll be
Make sure you're here.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So any and all information will be continued to be talked about from probably our announcements and news and notes and all those things. So if you want to know and join us, which you should, especially if there's goalies.
That's right. Yeah, join us and bring a friend who you think might be interested. It's not just a Crosspoint event. Yeah. We're hoping we have some churches we're connected with in Portland, and they're hoping to join as well. That's cool. We'd love to see you and get to tell you more about what God's doing and how you can be a part.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else you want to share with us about the Persecuted Church, about what you do, anything? Floor is yours.
Yeah, we're really the most exciting part for me. Well, there's a couple things. One, ICR, our commitment is to get 90% of our funds straight to the field. So that's really unique. And so it really is cool to represent an organization that's so committed to the church, both here in the U.S. and globally. And we're really trying to faithfully live that out. But also we're just excited to share, what God's doing. I love Crosspoint.
Yeah.
So grateful for all of you who've prayed faithfully for me and my family. I know you guys have been support that we don't always see, but we have always needed, and super excited to see, how we could partner moving forward. But really the main thing is we just love the church. So we love churches like Crosspoint. We want to see the body of Christ grow in purity and holiness, but also in resilience and steadfastness. And that might be living in the Northwest, where being a Christian might not be the coolest choice you can make, or it could be our brothers and sisters who face more serious opposition. But in all of it, we just want to see the word of God proclaimed and the people of God strong and steadfast.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super sweet. Yeah, we're really happy to be praying for you and kind of be supporting you from the sidelines where you're out and helping the international and global church. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's my honor. Yeah.
We need, obviously, we understand, the Bible talks about that everyone gives us different gifts, and we're thankful that that's yours. So, but yeah, that about wraps up our episode. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a big movie guy, so I always end an episode kind of recommending families a movie that's maybe fits with our topic. And so I'm going to recommend The Prince of Egypt. Have you seen the old?
Probably years ago. Yeah.
It's about the story of Moses.
It's awesome.
It's definitely got, biblical themes as it is based on the Bible. But if you haven't seen that, I mean, it's pretty awesome. There's a scene where Moses parts the Red Seas, and it took like 40,000 hours to animate. Mm-hmm. There's some crazy thing like that. So it's pretty cool. But thanks for hanging and talking about what you do and just how we can be praying for the persecuted church and just the global church in general, sharing stories.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to. Thanks for the invite. Glad we could do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.